Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at a typing-based dungeon crawler, developed and published by RNG Party Games and released on December 13th, 2019. Backspace Bouken is a low-res first-person dungeon crawler where combat is handled by typing sentences swiftly and accurately. Backspace Bouken, and I'm pretty sure that I'm mispronouncing that, is a little bit of an odd one. It outwardly appears to be a dungeon crawler with a focus on puzzles and story development, but with its general lack of stats beyond health, it may really fit more into an action-adventure style game. Still, the interface and storyline make it feel more like your typical dungeon crawler RPG, so I guess close enough. In terms of plot, you play Kana, who is now tasked with journeying into the Tower of F8 in order to search for medicine for her sister. Led along by the fairy/star/whatever thing asterisk, she encounters various signs that warn her, NPCs that give her clues, and enemies that seek to block her way. In terms of mechanics, there's really only two main sections of the game, exploration and combat. During both, the interface shows the view of the hall ahead of you in the main window, any sort of description in the lower window, and a gauge that shows how many spaces you've collected along the top menu. To the right, you have either the main character's portrait or an indicator of what you need to do to interact with whatever you're facing, along with a health gauge. This health gauge represents the number of hearts that you have, which are really the only ability score in the game. As you get hearts and heart pieces, the maximum number of hearts you can possess increases. The main interface concludes with a compass to show what direction you're facing, along with a mini-map that fills in as you explore. From the exploration screen, you may also enter a status screen that shows how far up along the tower you've progressed. Clicking on each floor will indicate the information that you have on that floor, including what percentage of the map you've unlocked there, what percentage of the monsters that you've killed, then a list of NPCs that you've rescued, along with placeholders for those that you missed. Each NPC is listed along with the dialogue that they offer, so that you can come back to check out the clues that they give you at any time. Certain floors may also offer clues that you can come across in other ways, and this is listed under the Info tab for that floor. The status screen also shows whether you have a piece of heart or not. Every 2 pieces of heart grants you an additional whole maximum heart. During combat, you are faced with generally a single enemy. These enemies offer lines of dialogue which must be typed back to them in order to defeat them. Mistyping a particular word will result in a miss, while typing a word accurately will result in a hit. During combat, enemies also wind up their own attacks graphically. If you notice this, you can dodge by hitting the left or right cursor keys in time. If you are reduced to 0 hit points by these attacks, the game is over, while correctly clearing an enemy's conversation accurately and swiftly may actually regenerate a little bit of health. After each combat, you are given an explanation of your accuracy and typing speed. It should be noted that combat is somewhat limited by the number of spaces you've collected. Running out of spaces while typing can render you unable to fight back, and spaces are only earned during exploration. In order to save spaces, you can try to include various contractions, although only a few of the more common ones are actually recognized. Exploration itself basically involves navigating the various floors, solving puzzles, and collecting clues. You are often given warnings before encountering enemies, and there's only a set number of enemies and static locations on each floor, so every combat itself can be somewhat of a puzzle-solving exercise, mostly in terms of space management. On any particular floor, you may encounter doors that lead to other areas, stairs that lead to other floors, pits that drop you down a floor once you step on them, switches on walls that may alter the presence of barriers or the locations of other walls, as well as activatable items on the walls of some floors, for instance a furnace to warm a freezing level, and so on. You may encounter NPCs who speak their dialogue, then join you, as well as signs which are liberally sprinkled throughout each floor. These signs may provide clues or instructions. Many of them are simply descriptive of the area you're in or offer background lore information, or sometimes just jokes. These signs are important not only for their occasional clues, but also because they are the sole source of spaces that you use in combat. Once you've read a particular sign, you can hold the backspace to delete the text on it, reclaiming any spaces that you encounter in order to use them during combat. Whenever the game really feels like an old-school dungeon crawler is mostly in the exploration phase. It's full of switch puzzles, has the occasional secret door revealed by those switches, and managing to discover passwords to access each level can be quite challenging. Further, some floors have multiple entrances, so exploring an entire floor may take a couple of visits to it. Theoretically, space management can be an important key to the game too, although as you progress through the game, it can become less and less of a problem, especially if you're keen about collecting every sign that you can and fairly accurate during your typing. Graphically, the pixel graphics are decent, although whether they're acceptable or not will depend largely on whether you're alright with that particular aesthetic. The interface is a little bit chunky, but there's not much information to be described, so it can actually be alright, and it does kind of evoke that old school feel. There is the occasional effect applied to text in combat in order to try to make things more challenging. About the only complaint I really have about the graphics is that the first-person view of the corridors doesn't appear nor scroll quite as smoothly as many old-school dungeon crawlers that I was used to, so that can be a little bit disorienting if you're well into that genre. The music is actually pretty decent all in all, and is available as its own separate soundtrack if you're into that. Other sound effects are pretty much the bare minimum that you'd expect for the genre. In terms of storyline and writing, Backspace Bouken does its best to provide some humor, although most of that seems more suited to a younger audience. Wordplay and puns are rife throughout the text, whether it be in the lore or the monsters' dialogues, and many monsters have verbal tics or themes that can present challenges while trying to accurately type their dialogues back to them. I think that if one were aiming for a school-aged audience working on their typing skills, more of the humor might hit home. In truth, the whole game presents itself as a sort of typing game with a thin veneer of RPG over it, and, there's nothing wrong with that. I believe it may well be effective in improving typing rates of those with moderate words per minute, so if that's the goal, then I chalk that up as a success. I honestly only really recommend this to people who might look at this as a decent typing game rather than those who might look at it as a solid RPG. While the storyline is cute and might be worth following, it is relatively brief and may not be worth the cost of entry alone. The gameplay is a little bit too simplistic to really sell itself as an RPG proper for people who are primarily RPG fans. I kind of wish there was some sort of benefit to actively improving your typing rate in the game, for instance. However, as a typing game, it may be engaging for a couple hours at least. I know that when I was in school, way back in the day, I would have loved a game like this. So, not bad, but probably not for everyone. There is a demo on Steam available if you have any questions as to whether this might appeal to you, or more likely might appeal to somebody that you know that could use some typing practice. And on that note, I'm going to leave it off here. As always, I'll put a link in the description below. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Backspace Bouken. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye.